In this world, individuals can gain extraordinary abilities by consuming the fruit of the skill tree. With a bit of luck, you might end up as a fearbender. However, the fog is so dense that Light can barely figure out which direction they're heading. He turns to Lena to confirm if they've reached the correct location, and she reassures him by consulting the map, saying they should be nearing the mansion. Just then, Light's horse suddenly rears up, almost throwing him off as they come upon the mansion. And it's clear that the horse won't be able to make it all the way down there 3 hours earlier, that day as Light and his group were making their way into the guild to select their next quest. They found the receptionist already waiting for them with a special assignment. She was relieved to see Lena's party and urged them to take on the quest, emphasizing the need for it to be resolved quickly to ensure everyone's safety. However, there was little information available about the situation, and she admitted she had no idea what might be causing it. The trouble began when an adventuring party traveling to the northern Monte Valley vanished during their quest, and every time they sent other adventurers to investigate, they also mysteriously disappeared. What's even more alarming is that both A and B rank adventurers have vanished in that valley, meaning that whatever is behind these disappearances must be extremely powerful. The receptionist gives the group a list of the missing adventurers, and to Lena's shock, she recognizes them. They were the very people who taught her everything she knows about adventuring back when she was just starting out, which makes her deeply concerned for their well-being. The only lead they have is that all the missing adventurers were last seen visiting the residence of the former Count of Monte. Count Monte was a legendary adventurer who amassed great wealth before retiring in the region. While there's no record of what abilities the Count might have had, he passed away over 30 years ago, leaving his mansion to crumble into ruin anyway. The mission for Lena's party is to find the missing adventurers, as well as determine the cause of all the disappearances. Lena is hesitant to agree to this job, since even A and B rank adventurers went missing without a trace. But on the other hand, Light seems really excited because he has always wanted to visit the Monte Valley. Plus, this job will actually earn them a decent reward, so even Issa is on board since it means more pizza for her. The receptionist is just now noticing that Issa is here, so she asks Light if he really intends to take her along with him. On the quest, Light tells the receptionist that Issa is a very dependable appraiser, so it's essential for her to accompany him on quests. But that statement raises even more questions, since kids as young as Issa shouldn't have skills yet. Light explains that she accidentally ate a skill fruit a while ago, but she didn't die or anything. So everything's fine with that. The group begins their journey toward the Montes Valley, and now we return to the present. The group is carefully making their way along the side of the mountain with a steep drop below them. Light reminds Issa to be extra cautious as he takes in the massive mansion ahead. Light finds it hard to believe that someone could amass enough wealth from adventuring alone to afford such a place. However, Lena doesn't think it's too surprising. After all, she's only been an adventurer for a few months, and she's already saved enough to buy a house. Light had thought about it before, but now he's even more inspired to build a grand home, like this one where he can grow his fruits and train to his heart's content. Issa gets caught up in the excitement, exclaiming that she wants to build a candy house for herself. Unfortunately, her enthusiasm seems to cloud her judgment, as she starts jumping for joy right on the ledge. As soon as she lands, the ledge collapses beneath her feet, sending her plummeting toward her doom. However, with his quick reflexes, Light manages to grab her hand just in time, only to lose his own balance and tumble over the edge with her. Lena tries to pull them back to safety, but she gets dragged down as well, and the entire group ends up falling as they plummet. Light realizes he needs to act fast to avoid a disastrous landing. Thinking quickly, he draws his sword and uses it to slash through the air, generating enough wind pressure to slow their descent. Thanks to this maneuver, they all manage to land safely in one piece. However, just because they survived the fall doesn't mean they are safe, since Lena and Issa soon realize that they've been surrounded. Light doesn't seem too bothered, since he's sure he can handle whatever kind of monsters these are. So he charges forward and slashes one of the monsters in half. Light was right about the monsters being easy to defeat. But Lena and Issa realize that these are no ordinary monsters now that they mention it. Light pauses for a moment to take a proper look at the monsters, and to his horror, he realizes that they are all adventurers. Issa uses her appraise skill on the adventurers, and informs the group that they've all been turned into undead after being bitten. She also points out that these undead adventurers retain the same skills they had when they were alive. So she warns Light and Lena to exercise extreme caution while facing them. Meanwhile, Light is in the middle of a major moral dilemma because he can't come to terms with the fact that the monster he was so excited to slay used to be human, just like him. He gets so distracted that he nearly gets bitten by one of the undead. But before that could happen, Lena steps in and slices it in half. She can understand why Light would be hesitant about fighting the undead, but at the same time it is their duty as adventurers to put their former comrades to rest. Light understands what she's saying, so he agrees to fight. But for now they have to retreat into the mansion since there's a chance that there might be survivors in there. Unfortunately, when they open the front door, they discover even more undead adventurers waiting inside. Lena immediately takes the lead, rushing forward to carve a path, cutting through several of the undead. With precision, Light is impressed by Lena's deep knowledge of monsters as she adapts her attack strategies based on her opponents. She knows that undead creatures still resembling humans can be defeated by stabbing through the heart, while skeletal ones require their spines to be severed. Such precise attacks take incredible skill. And even though Light's Sword God skill is technically more powerful than Lena's Sword Saint skill, she still surpasses him in actual combat ability. However, just because he's not as skilled doesn't mean he's going to stand back and let her handle everything alone. Determined to contribute, Light draws his sword and charges at the undead. Light begins cutting through the undead monsters as well. But while he's doing well against them, he completely forgets that Issa has no fighting skills. Stepping away leaves her vulnerable to attack. An undead sneaks up behind her and is about to strike. But just before she could be hit, Lena dashes forward and stabs the undead through the guts in its armor, killing it in one blow. Once the undead disintegrates, Lena asks Issa if she's okay, and Isla begins praising her for being so cool. Lena feels really flattered, but she can't let herself become too overconfident. That little slip-up Light made could have easily cost Issa her life, so he swears that from now on he will fight with a clear head and won't hesitate anymore so they can all make it out of this, alive with all the undead on this floor, taken care of. Lena suggests they move on to the second floor. However, before proceeding, Light brings up something that has been bothering him. They were sent on this mission because 18 adventurers had gone missing here. But even if those adventurers were turned into undead, he and Lena have already defeated far more than 18 undead. So far, the only possible explanation is that there were already a large number of undead monsters in this mansion beforehand. But that doesn't add up either. There's no reason for undead to just randomly spawn on here. As they head up the staircase, Light notices the painting of Count Montes, and there's something unsettling about it. But even more unsettling is the fact that there's a girl dancing somewhere in the castle, and she's looking forward to all the fun ways she could kill Light. As the three of them run down the hallway, they are suddenly jump-scared by an undead that lunges at them. But before it could infect anyone, Light manages to chop its head off. They may have taken care of that first one, but there are a lot more where that came from. So Light and Lena have a lot of work ahead of them. The undead on this floor appear to be using strategy as evidenced by the ambush. They set up. Light asks Issa to scan them and see if she can uncover any useful information, following his instructions. Issa discovers that these undead have been tamed and are being controlled by someone giving them orders. At that moment, Light notices several threads connected to the undead, and after scanning those as well, Issa realizes that the threads are transmitting magic power to them. This means that whoever is orchestrating this must be at the other end of those threads. After following them for a while, they come across a door where all the threads converge. Light tells everyone to be prepared since they don't know what kind of danger they may face once they head inside. But as he opens the door, all he finds is an empty ballroom. All of a sudden, the girl behind this whole thing appears, while Light was initially glad to finally see a living person. He can tell that she doesn't seem very friendly. Issa uses her appraisal skill on her and discovers that DR's skill is necromancy, meaning she can control the dead and even use their unique skills as her own, having her deeply irritating to DRA. And she considers taking Issa out first out of sheer annoyance before she can make a move. Light steps in and asks if Diorno was sent here on a mission from the guild, suggesting that if that's the case, there's no reason for them to fight. However, the girl denies it outright, stating that her sole reason for being here is to kill Light. Light doesn't understand why she would be here specifically to kill him, because he has never met her before. But Dry Eye doesn't have a personal grudge against him or anything. She was just given an order to kill him, so that's what she's going to do. Light asks her who gave the order, and it may or may not have been a certain holy sister. But Dry Eye isn't going to confirm anything, regardless if Data's goal has always been to kill Light. She must have come here and killed all those adventurers just to lure him out. Ina also finds it strange that she has never once heard of a skill as powerful as necromancy, but she doesn't have much time to think about it because Dra is beginning her attack. If Light and Lena work together, it's not that hard to deal with the undead, but Dra has no interest in Lena. Instead, she lures Lena away from Light and sets her up to fight the undead versions of her mentors, Boar and Shira. Lena is horrified to learn that they actually died here, so she is stunned by grief for a moment. But IA yells over to warn her that these two are a lot more dangerous than the others. They still have full control over their skills, so Boar can grow claws to increase his attack speed and power, while Shira can create a mirror image of herself to attack multiple times. Lena is struggling to keep up with the undead's powerful skills, but thanks to Isa's timely warnings, she manages to defend herself. Meanwhile, Dra grows increasingly annoyed with the support Isa is providing and decides to eliminate her first. She sends an undead to attack Isa, but this time Light is ready just before Isa can be harmed. Light rushes in and grabs her, vowing to protect her. No matter what, however, fighting while ensuring Isa's safety proves to be a daunting task. Drea continues to send undead after Light, and the moment he shifts his focus, she seizes every opportunity to target Isa. Directly, Light finds himself barely able to keep up with the relentless onslaught. Meanwhile, Lena is still struggling to come to terms with the fact that she has to kill her mentors when she was first brought to the Holy City. These two were the first people to show her kindness, so she owes them a great deal. Yet now she finds herself fighting for her life against them, as much as she doesn't want to do it. She knows that she needs to kill them, so she can go help Light and Isa. So she cuts the threads above them to release STNA's control and prepares her sword to finish the two off. As she does this, she sees a vision of their souls, and they tell her that she doesn't have to feel guilty about finishing them off, because it's the right thing to do with a heavy heart. Lena raises her sword and cuts the two in half. Meanwhile, Light continues to struggle to protect both himself and Isa, as the undead seem endless, no matter how many he defeats. Suddenly he realizes something doesn't add up. There's no way Darna could have an infinite supply of undead at her disposal to investigate. He asks Isa to determine whether Dar-Ria has the ability to create undead. According to Isa's appraisal, Dar-Ria lacks that power and can only control undead. That already exists with this revelation. Light urges Isa to examine the situation more closely, convinced that there must be a hidden secret behind the seemingly endless army of undead. Dar-Ria is impressed that Light managed to deduce she's hiding a trick, but she's determined not to let Isa uncover what it is she immediately sets her sights on. Eliminating Isa. Light, however, refuses to let that happen and quickly destroys the undead attacking her, realizing that that drut is now targeting Isa directly. He knows he can't leave her side for even a moment of thinking. Quickly, he comes up with a solution. He places Isa on his back so he can fight at full strength while keeping her safe. While Isa clings to his back, Light inquires whether she can deduce the reason behind the constant appearance of the undead. However, with the zombies constantly shifting and moving, her skill struggles to lock on to anything specific to provide her with a wider perspective on the situation. Light leaps into the air and grabs hold of a chandelier. From this vantage point, Isa begins scanning all the zombies for any signs of unusual activity. Meanwhile, Light's arm is throbbing in pain, prompting him to urge Isa to speed things up. Before long, Isa identifies the source of the undead swarm and informs Light that one of the zombies in the back possesses a summoning skill. This isn't just any ordinary zombie. It's none other than Count Monty himself. Dra is none too pleased about how close they're getting to uncovering her secret. So she attempts to eliminate them while Light remains suspended from the roof. She summons a Soul Reaper to go after them after scanning it. Issa warns Light that even a single touch from the scythe will turn him into an undead, making it critical to avoid being hit to dodge the attack. Light is forced to leap down. At least now, they finally understand why there were so many zombies in the area. The Soul Reaper was responsible for turning those adventurers into undead Darton, appraises them for piecing it together, but clarifies that the Soul Reaper originally belonged to Count Montes. There's an ironic twist to it. Such a great hero ended up falling victim to his own soul. Reaper afterward, any adventurers who came to the mansion to investigate would also be turned into undead. While this explains how everything unfolded, Light is still baffled as to why Count Monte would summon a creature like the Soul Reaper in the first place. The fact that Light can't even begin to understand why infuriates is to prompting her to call him a naive child. When he asks what she means by that, Dr. N.E. counters with a question of her own. Does he know anything about taboo skills? These are abilities so feared that merely having one earns the scorn of society, and Count Monte's summoning skill was one of them. Initially, people celebrated him as a hero with an extraordinary ability, but his skill proved to be far too overpowered. Sparking fear among the public and the government, they grew concerned that he might eventually embark on a villain arc. So they ostracized him and even falsely accused him of treason. Ironically, that's the exact thing that drove him to his villain arc. The government kept sending assassins after him day in and day out. So one day he decided, if I'm dying, then we're dying, and summoned his secret treasure. Light had no idea that the guild would do something as shady as sending assassins after Count Montes. But that's enough chit-chat for now, because Darno wants to get on with their fight. This place was practically a dream for her, since she could never find this many undead anywhere else. And if she uses her necromancy skill to control a summon user, she can endlessly summon as many dead as she wants. Light prepares his sword to face Dre once more. But as he does, her words about the people fearing Count Monte's powerful skill linger in his mind. He realizes the same thing could easily happen to him, given that his Fruit Master skill has the potential to let him acquire an unlimited number of abilities if he chose to. If others were to discover this, they would undoubtedly start treating him like a villain too. The thought of such an outcome weighs on him, but he doesn't have the luxury of dwelling on it. Right now, the priority is protecting Issa and continuing the fight to that end. Light managed to observe something while he was watching Drona's undead. It looks like Dra uses her necromancy to assign targets and attack methods to the undead. Issa confirms this, since undead under Data's control are only capable of using the same attacks over and over until they are given new instructions. Light comes up with a plan to take advantage of this. So as Drayton ascends undead after him, he prepares a counterattack. However, that was just a diversion. He cancels the attack mid-animation and jumps into the air to give Lena an opening to attack. Diablo is taken by surprise by the sudden turn of events and attempts to redirect the Soul Reaper to target Lena. Instead, however, she's too late. Before she can even issue the command, Lena has already cut through the undead in a single strike. With the Soul Reaper now out of the picture, the only task remaining is for Light to deal with Count Montes, ensuring Diablo can't use him to summon any more undead. Dre is starting to get desperate since she's on the verge of losing just before Monte's body vanishes. She uses her skill to force him to summon the ultimate monster. This can't be good, so Light and Lena brace themselves for whatever is coming their way. To their horror, a wicked dragon is spawned. Dry Eye is overjoyed that the summon spell actually worked, but she failed to realize that the dragon isn't undead, so she has no control over it and gets tail whipped away. Lena can hardly believe her eyes as she stands face to face with a wicked dragon, a creature so powerful that even Shrank parties avoid hunting it. Light, however, confidently suggests that they should be able to defeat it if they combine their efforts. Issa quickly shuts down that plan, pointing out that the dragon is entirely immune to slashing attacks, despite the clear warning from someone with the appraisal skill. Light remains convinced that his Sword God skill will give him an edge without hesitation. He leaps into the air and attempts to slash the dragon. However, his sword ends up shattering as a result, and he nearly gets hit with a face full of dragon's breath when he lands. Issa yells at him for not listening to her. There aren't many options left, and the second they turn their backs to the dragon, they are bound to get attacked. Lena is starting to think about sacrificing herself to make sure Light and Issa can get out of this alive. But luckily, Issa has a better plan in mind. She pulls out a skill fruit and tells Light to eat it. While there's no guarantee that a skill fruit will help here, it's their best option. Meanwhile, despite being severely injured by the dragon, Drea feels content with how things have turned out, convinced that there's no way Light can possibly survive against such a beast. Shortly after she loses consciousness, and a man appears, picks up her body and teleports away, returning to Light and the others Lena. Questions Issa about why she's carrying a skill fruit, to which Isa responds that she thought it might be useful, given the danger posed by the wicked dragon. Their only chance of victory lies in Light gaining a new skill. Lena is shocked that Light is seriously considering eating another skill fruit, but he assures her it's fine since he's immune to the poison. Despite this, Lena argues it's still a gamble. They have no way of knowing what kind of skill he'll acquire for all they know. It could be a skill that interferes with his sword. God's skill, even so, doing nothing isn't an option. If they want to survive, Light takes a bite of the skill fruit and his body begins burning up as he acquires a new skill and falls to the floor. The dragon starts attacking, so Lena is forced to defend Light until he gets back on his feet. Eventually, the side effects of the skill fruit wear off, so Light asks Issa to appraise him, as she does. She informs him that his new skill is something called bug resistance. Light is disappointed and asks if his skill classifies the wicked dragon as a bug, but no bug resistance only works on actual bugs. Lena continues doing her best to hold off the dragon, but it's clear she won't be able to keep it up for much longer. Light turns to Isa and asks her to hand him 2 skill fruits at once. Isla hesitates, warning him that eating 2 at the same time could have unpredictable effects on his body. However, Light insists that it's a risk he has to take to increase his chances of gaining a useful skill. He bites into both skill fruits, but much to his disappointment, the first skill he acquires is called Cat Charmer. It only makes cats like him. The second is Weapon Durability Boost, which is completely useless to him now, since his sword is already broken on top of not getting any useful skills. Eating 2 skill fruits at once has adverse effects on his body. If he doesn't get a good skill on the next attempt, he's not going to be able to move anymore. At this point, Lena is starting to wear herself out, and as she goes to attack the dragon again, her sword shatters and the dragon whips her into a wall. She's pretty much down for the count. Now seeing Lena in trouble, Light takes another bite of a skill fruit, hoping this time it grants him something useful. Fortunately, the skill he gains seems promising as the dragon closes in on Lena. Light hurls a rock at its face to divert its attention, with the dragon now focused on him. Light readies himself to face it, using his newly acquired skill. Curious, Lena asks Issa what skill Light just gained, and Issa explains that it's called Sleep Pixie. This skill allows Light to summon a cute pixie, and anything that inhales the pixie's dust will fall asleep. Light activates the Sleep Pixie and sends it at the dragon. While the dust is effective, the dragon is really fighting to stay awake at this distance. The dosage of pixie dust isn't strong enough to force the dragon to fall asleep. According to Isa Lights, Pixie can only fly up 3 meters away from him, so he needs to find a way to get close to the dragon's face. He comes up with an idea and picks up his broken sword so he can activate his sword. God's skill Light hurls the blade at the ceiling, causing the roof to collapse as the debris crashes to the ground. He uses the falling rubble as stepping stones to reach the dragon's face. Once there, he unleashes the pixie dust again, and this time the dragon is knocked out cold, with the dragon incapacitated and unable to attack. Light urges them to move quickly and escape as the building is on the verge of collapsing. They manage to get outside just in time, moments before the mansion crumbles to the ground behind them. Now that they are safe, Lena asks Light if he's all right after eating all those skill fruits. Light tells her he's fine, since he doesn't want Lena to worry about him, but he is clearly out of breath, so something is definitely wrong. The group rides back to town on their horses, and Light is fighting just to stay conscious by the time they finally reach the city. Gates Light's body gives out, and he collapses to the floor. Meanwhile, the cloaked man returns direct ride to the Holy Sister and prepares to leave before he departs. The Holy Sister stops him and asks for his thoughts on Light after observing him. The man admits that Light is far stronger than he initially expected, particularly since he was able to defeat a dragon. However, the man reassures her that he doesn't believe Light poses any real threat to her plan. The Holy Sister hadn't anticipated that Light would be this powerful, as the strength he's displayed is comparable to that of the a priori. There's clearly something unique about him, but regardless of what it is, she already has significant plans for him in the coming future. After the exhausting expedition, Issa finally found a moment to care for the garden. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more thrilling anime content. Stay tuned for the next adventure with GBJ Recaps.